Choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
I've recently bought an electrically assisted bicycle, and the brakes on it were unsatisfactory and wore out too quick. Join with me as I figure out the brake pads I need and how to put them on and get it adjusted properly. Alright, I have noticed that I don't know what I'm doing with these caliper brakes as much as I thought I did. Or I should say they're not self-regulating over time. You've got to apparently loosen them up and retighten them up, or maybe you leave them floating. I'm about to go look it up and find out. But either way, taking them apart, you can take the top bolts and washers out of them, but it's got other bolts or washers underneath it that like to fall apart, so it's probably easier just to go ahead and take this loose, take this off, take a cable loose to work on it. But my brake pads and this one here aren't as bad as the front, but you can see that they're not even, they're crooked, and that's probably because this thing wasn't lined up straight. Alright, nope, I was right. These do get tightened down. They're not supposed to be left loose so they can float and self-adjust. Alright, there's a couple of things in here though I've noticed. Is there's this cap, puck, whatever you want to call it. Probably puck's a better idea. And what that does is that's threaded, and it makes sure that there's some pads sticking out beyond this here, and I guess that needs occasional tightening up too as this inside pad wears. And to loosen that up, you got to loosen that first, and then you can tighten this up. But we're replacing the brake pads completely today, so let's get these tossed out of here and get to the next step. Okay, to completely take off the brake caliper, like I said, I would recommend taking it off from this spot here, which I'm going to go ahead and remove as the next step. But you go ahead and take the bolt off of here, take the cable out, and then unthread that till that line's out. Now you got it completely out. If you squeeze this right here, you can get a good look. That's that inside pad, and you can see, yeah, that's I mean, it's square with the inside pad that's not square. But it's obviously not square side to side. So let's get those brake pads out of there, and I guess just prying them out is the best way. Alright, here we go. I just went ahead and took the puck out, and it just had a magnet, had the brake pad attached to it, and then pulled and squeezed on that, and took the little tool and just slid it off of there, and you can see the little magnet up in there. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to just get up in there and clean those out a little bit, but you can see the threaded surface and the little spot that tightens up against the puck from that Allen key that doesn't actually touch the puck, it appears. So that's kind of cool. That's anyway, let's take a good look at these right here. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, that's not very square. So I got some new ones. Let's see if they fit. They look right. Look about that thickness. Alright. I'll be honest, I'm not really totally satisfied. They are the right size as far as I can tell, but the factory ones are actually thicker than the new ones. I don't like that. Oh well. They're $7.50 a pair, $3.50 a piece, I guess. $3.75. So I'll be looking for some better ones already. How are the front ones there? They're smaller. I got two sets of those, and they actually look I don't know. I have to compare them. Forgive me for not cleaning them out, but like I said, they're not that bad, and I might be just putting new brake pads on it sooner than later anyway. But yeah, that looks about as how it goes. Probably better with two hands. Okay, and I really haven't found any other data on this, but just my mechanical mind says that if you take this and tighten this up till it's sticking out about, I don't know, I guess that far, maybe a little further. Make sure it's got enough room, and you know what, maybe I'll leave this loosened to make sure it doesn't rub, and I can back off on this just a touch if it does. But I think that's enough room for the caliper. Anyway, that's the idea though, is you want to make sure it's sticking out far enough that it's not going to rub, give it a little time, area to wear, but you don't want to stick it out far enough where it's going to be putting constant squeeze on that. Alright, I did what I said I was going to do and loosen this up and popped it out of the way and took the bottom of this, and sure enough, it's all fixed holes. There's no adjustment on that, which is fine. Couple of washers. With the bike rack, it probably might have been easier for me to try to slid these and all them washers into place than move the rack over, but it's already said and done anyways. So the idea though is you're gonna have a flat washer on one of them washers with a little come on now, focus, with a little hollowed out in there, sit in there, and then you can take another one of those with the hollowed out facing right back up against it, and one of these nuts right here that's kind of cupped out so that it fits up in there. See how it complements it and lets it swerve around. Toss it up in there, and remember which side, because one side's taller than the other, so you want to make sure you get that line back up, outside and inside proper, bolt it on, and then do the other side. Alright, once you get it this far, you'll want to leave this finger tight so these can slide side to side a little bit, and you'll want to line this up with a brake rotor and line your holes up right there, and slide your bolts in and tighten this bolt and that bolt up, and then we'll work on putting the cable on and adjusting the brakes. Alright, set that back up in there. Give it a good tighten up. Any other spots you had to loosen up to get it to give a little into the right spot, and we're good on that. Alright, now what we're going to want to do is come up in here and hook the cable back up. Alright, the next thing we need to do is come in here and hook the cable up. This thing here kind of likes to sit outside of this right in here, so you kind of got to make sure that's sit up in there just right. And come up in here and thread it through the hole. Go ahead and come up in here and tighten this up. It's a little tricky. It might even take two hands. Alright, I would say the easiest way to thread this is to pull this out of this little socket here, so it's kind of just floating, That way you can get up in here and get it lined right up and then get it tightened up. And while you got it out, go ahead and tighten it all the way up, or maybe just a couple of turns from being all the way tightened up. There you go. And make sure it's set up in there evenly. Bring this around. Grab your nut and bolt. And you'll see the little indent for the cable to go in. And this thing here obviously hooks around the cable. Set it in. Get it started. Get it started up. And make sure it's lined up right. It's not lining up right, so there we go. Now it's flattened out, lined up right. All right. Then pull this up so it's almost tight. As a good starting point, and then tighten that down to get it to hold. Then we'll go to the next step. Okay, how's that for environmental friendliness? I had to go get a tank of propane on my bicycle, so I bought an e-bike that charges off of solar panels and hooks up to the trailer to go get my heating fuel at, for what it's worth, 0 emissions, other than the lithium to make the battery and the copper and stuff and to make the motor, and aluminum to make the frame, and rubber to make the tires. And anyway, what I'm saying is I didn't spend a couple dollars in gasoline and several thousand on a car. I spent less than $1,000 on a trailer and a bicycle, a whole bunch on solar panels and inverters and converters. But now I'm charging my electrically assisted bicycle with the capacity to go get tanks of fuel and groceries, even carry extra people that charge off solar panels. All right, until I see an environmentalist doing that, I don't want to hear nothing about saving the planet while flying jets and driving armored covered SUVs in caravans across the street, if you know what I mean. All right, just to double check to make sure I got that puck set in a good spot, I've just picked the bicycle up and spun the wheel, and there's no rubbing or nothing, so that means that there's enough of a gap between the caliper, or between the pads with it at rest to not cause an issue. So now it's time to go ahead and tighten this cable down while leaving these a little loose. And we're going to pull on the brake, which is going to center this thing. Then we're going to tighten those two down. Then we're going to spin it. And if there's no rubbing, we're all set as long as we got the tension on the cable just right. And that's, and then we'll be ready to ride. All right, I believe the easiest way to start with getting the brakes adjusted is to come up in here and pull this thing as close as you can. Pull this cable out over here and tighten it up with just a couple of turns loose on this and a couple of turns loose up at the lever. And that usually gives you a great spot to start with, by the way. With these brakes, they're pretty easy. I can just squeeze this over here with one hand and then take the wrench and loosen. What I do is I kind of wiggle it with my fingers just to make sure that it's, centered. When I'm confident, then I go ahead and tighten these down and then do the brake cable thing. And if I come up in here, sure enough, it's actually already almost in a good spot to be set. The next thing I want to do is pick it up off the ground, spin the wheel, see if it squeaks any, and if it doesn't, I believe I'm actually ready to go ahead and do the front brakes. All right, once you get everything where it's spinning nice and free, which I had this just a little too tight, so I loosened it up just enough to let this slide down the cable a little, a couple of times till I got it. I went ahead and just for good measure took this puck back here and loosened it just, not even an eighth of a turn, maybe just a touch to, in theory, my idea is that if I tighten these down with this, technically touching this because it's caliper squeeze, then this is always going to be rubbing the caliper till it wears a little. Anyway, so now that I got this, what I believe is a good, comfortable spot for everything, but just making sure the cable's perfect. Tighten this down. Doesn't hurt to double check, make sure everything else is tight. Tight, 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 and I know that one's tight. Anyway, now I believe, come up here and double check how that feels. That could use a little bit more of a tight on it. So I'll probably pull the cable out just a little tiny bit more. Oh, you know what? I'm grabbing the front brake. I'm being a retard. Haha. There we go. That's feeling pretty good. And if I pick it up off the ground and spin it, yeah, it spins. Boy, that's tough to do one-handed. It's still rubbing just a little. Huh. All right, let's try again. Okay, I did it the way somebody else had instructed me to do it, and that is to get the cable set pretty decent, then hold the brake lever instead of what I was doing, just holding it over here and tightening it down. And I still swear I hear a little teeny tiny bit of rubbing, and they say if you do it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and you still hear a little bit of rubbing, then your brake rotor might just be warped. So yeah, I swear it shows just a little teeny tiny bit of resistance that it didn't have. So I'm gonna try to adjust that back puck and see what happens. Yeah, sure enough, that fixed it. Taking that loose and then just taking that back puck and just about 1/8 of a turn at a time. And this time it just took one, and sure enough, that's not bad. I can live with that. Now, like I said, time for the front. That ought to be much easier. Hopefully the pads fit. So maybe this should be at the beginning of the video. Anyway, now I got this pretty well worked out, pretty easy now. Let's see here. Go ahead and take this off. Click. That's honestly easier just to go ahead and take the bolt right on off of there, because the cable usually, yeah, it doesn't like to just work itself on out too easy. There we go. Anyway, yeah, these brake calipers are a little different. That's only got a single pin, the other one's got a double pin on it. And obviously the brake caliper sizes are different too. I guess in reality I don't even have to take the brake cable off, but you know, why not? I'll do a good job on these. All right, boy. Oh, goodness gracious. Come on, break loose. There we go. Thank goodness. Oh, I didn't want to bend my brand new tool set. Ooh, you can see the paint peel off from a flex. Anyways. Let me get a chair something to work with here. Clink. All right, now I'm gonna take this over to the other side. Gotta see if the brake pads fit. And you see what I was talking about with these. They are a different shape. Let's see if just by looks I actually did a good job on my first try. And this is important because the front ones are actually a lot worse than the rear ones. Yeah, look at that. That is why I was really trying to get on the ball on this. So, did I get the right brake pads? Yes, indeed, I sure did get the right brake pads. However, I have the same issue with the thickness. The original thickness is, I would say, a good 30 to 40% thicker than the new pads. But I got 2 sets of front ones, and now that they're lined up right, they should last a bit longer. Alright, let's get them put in. Click. Is it this easy? Just slide it in and go. Click. Almost, if I could line things up, maybe. Come on now. I know you got it in, you just will. Smarter, not harder, right, guys? That goes right up in there like that. Click. I'll put the puck in. Alright. Yeah, buddy. Nope, there it goes. Click. Pick the brake pad. That's actually looking pretty good right where it's at, huh? Maybe just a little tiny bit looser. Anyway, next step. Alright, again, try to find a good balance of gap to space between the caliper and the brake pad, and then we come back up in here, set it back down in here, and put the bolts on. Now don't forget, before you tighten these down too much with these new pads, make sure these here broke loose so that it can slide side to side and everything will line up evenly. Oops. All right, cable on next. I don't know why they do this setup like this. It's so frustrating. There we go, got lined up though. That's an important thing. Alright, I'm gonna have to take 2 hands to do this. We'll see. Can I do the brakes with 1 hand? If I can do a complete install of the brakes with 1 hand, that'll be pretty amazing. I know I could if I really wanted to, but I will. Alright, now remember, we want to hold this down and tighten those other 2 bolts up. I'll have to use 2 hands to do that though. Alright, now that is supposedly lined up, we'll want to make sure that the puck retainer is loose. And come up in here on the puck. And turn it about a quarter turn. Come back in here, tighten this back up. These little odd angle on keys are kind of cool. Alright. Give it a good. Yeah, that wrench isn't the best in the world for fitting right there. This is taking too long. So I apologize, everybody. But I don't want to break it and mess it up. Or strip it out or bend it. But I want you guys to see everything that's involved in this. Alright, now again, in theory, got a good strong brake caliper. Pick it up and it ought to spin pretty easy. Not really. Huh. Well, let's try loosening the brake cable first. Just a little slide you just saw there. That might even be a little too much. Double check it. Yeah, it feels like it might be a little too much. Alright, well, that's satisfactory. It's still sliding and rubbing a little bit, but I'm taking a good look at this rotor and it's in pretty bad shape. So I think I'm going to blame most of the noise now on that rotor, because it's not spinning with any resistance. I guess I could try loosening it up just a touch, but anyway. There we go. That's a set of brakes on my e-bike. Let's go actually ride around and try it out. All right, so far so good. Back brakes feel just a teeny tiny bit loose, and so I pulled them out a little bit. Now they're a little too tight, so we work this thing until we find a good spot. What you want to do is knock this loose, adjust it, pull this tight, and then while this is tight, give it just a little grab so it doesn't come loose again. See. Yeah, they feel pretty even now. All right, here we go. Front brake. Oh yeah, it'll straight up. Lock up into the ground now, and it's good and firm with enough play to give you some working before it actually grabs, and it's good and solid. Now the back brake, I'm gonna have to do this a little interesting. Oh, the bike will automatically. There we go. Drive on its own. Back brake. Oh yeah, I say that back brake works. Good deal. All right. I hope you enjoyed that video at least as much as I enjoy life to make it so far. I think I've got these brakes figured out real good for now and for the future. Don't forget to check out all of my other videos and like, share, and subscribe so you can keep up with anything coming up in the future. Well, that's all I've got to say for today. See you next time.